I would like to make a special request to those who haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet. Please do subscribe now. And if you enjoy the story, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Now we'll move on to today's story. We hope you enjoy it. Let's begin. Welcome, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. I'm about to recount an incident exactly as I collected it from my brother's friend, the person this happened to. He told me about his childhood friend Sumon, who committed suicide. Sumon was very thin. Just before evening, I heard the news and ran to their house, arriving as people were rushing to take him to the hospital. His mother was crying, "Sumon, what have you done?" I returned home quietly, swallowing my grief. At that time, it was forbidden to stay out late. Sumon died before reaching the hospital, and his body was taken for an autopsy. His uncle kept vigil with the body until midnight, but left out of fear. In the morning, when he came back, he found 4 or 5 dogs tugging at Sumon's legs. At around 10 a.m., the body was returned from the autopsy. When I saw it, the head had long stitches with thick thread, and fresh blood was dripping from it. The car carrying the body was soaked with blood, and drops fell from underneath. No one came forward to help wash the body, and the mosque refused to give a proper bed for washing. An old broken bed was brought, and when 2 people tried to lower the body, it fell from its palm leaf covering. The threads tore and the chest opened, exposing the empty cavity. Somehow, the body was placed on the bed. No one came to wash it, so buckets of warm, soapy water were thrown from a distance, and then someone wiped a small area with a cloth. The body was wrapped in a shroud and taken for the funeral prayer. Only 8 or 9 people came, including 4 of us friends. The imam refused to lead the prayer for suicide, so Sumon's uncle led it. We carried the body for almost 2 kilometers with just the 4 of us supporting it. At the graveyard, we found a hastily dug grave near some bamboo bushes beside an old grave dug a week ago. Its walls had collapsed, releasing a strong stench of decay, making it almost impossible to stand. Everyone held their noses, and no one was willing to go down. Even Sumon's uncle felt sick and vomit, unable to continue. I offered to go down, as did a friend, but Sumon's cousin said unmarried men shouldn't enter the grave, so he went down instead. He jumped into the grave, filled with fetid water, and tried to carry Sumon's body, but it slipped from his hands and fell into the water, splashing filth on all of us. The cousin was soaked and gagging, but he somehow placed the body in the grave, aligned it properly, and came out. It was one of the most harrowing and heartbreaking moments I've ever witnessed. With one hand, I held my nose shut, and with the other, I hastily covered the grave with a bamboo mat, quickly filling it with earth before leaving the cemetery. Even before reaching home, I and all my friends fell ill. We bathed repeatedly, scrubbing ourselves with soap over and over, but the stench refused to go away. If only Sumon's story had ended there, it would have been better, but that was only the beginning. After that, many incidents happened to our friends and others in the area, including myself. One night, while returning from a friend's house around 11 p.m., I was riding my bike and it suddenly stopped near the graveyard. I pulled over, checked the fuel, tried to kickstart the engine, but it refused to start. Frustrated, I lit a cigarette and kept checking, when suddenly Sumon appeared across the bike and asked, "What happened to the bike?" Without thinking, I replied, "I don't know. It just won't start. But what are you doing here?" He smiled and said he was just out for a walk, as he felt lonely. As I wiped the grease from my hands and gave one more kick, the bike started immediately. I waved and rode off, but a few moments later, I was struck by the horrifying realization. I had just talked to Sumon, who had died 5 years ago. My body went cold, and I raced down the broken village road as fast as I could, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Even after reaching home, I refused to accept that it had been Sumon, though I clearly remembered every word we exchanged. Another terrifying incident happened with our area's long-serving member, an 8-time elected councilman. I later heard from one of his house staff that, shortly before he fell ill and died, he had refused to let people attend Sumon's funeral. A few days later, one night after dinner, as the house staff was strolling on the veranda, he noticed someone standing in the corner of the courtyard. The gates were closed and all the doors were shut, so he wondered who it could be. He switched on the veranda light and was horrified to see a rotting corpse standing there. Suddenly, the corpse spoke. "Why did you forbid people from attending my funeral?" The staff was paralyzed with terror as the figure drew closer, reaching through the grill to grab his hand. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. As soon as the corpse's hand touched him, he lost consciousness, and that was the last thing he remembered. The man who had served the area all his life with a strong body, even fought in the liberation war with a rifle in hand, was now bedridden after that incident and never rose from it again. He died soon after. The graveyard where Sumon was buried was only about 50 handspans away from the member's house, and Sumon's grave could be seen from the house gate itself. I later came to know another strange story about Sumon. Near the graveyard where Sumon was buried, there was a small path beside a mosque where the imam used to sleep. According to the imam, one summer morning it was almost time for the Fajr Azan, but the muazzin hadn't arrived yet. The imam got up and started pacing on the veranda, when he suddenly saw the muazzin running towards the gate yelling, "Hujur, quickly open the gate!" The imam opened it and asked what was wrong. The muazzin, shaking with terror, pointed towards the corner of the graveyard. At first the imam couldn't see anything, but when the muazzin kept repeating, "Hujur, look, look," he finally noticed a body standing there. Its skin and flesh were rotting, illuminated by the faint light from the street lamp. The imam swore he could clearly see it slowly advancing towards them. Terrified, he started reciting prayers and pulled the muazzin into the mosque. From inside, they watched as the figure came closer and stopped just a short distance from the mosque. The imam told the muazzin to call the azan, and with shaking hands he announced it over the microphone while the imam stood beside him. When the azan ended, the figure was gone and the faint light of dawn began to break across the horizon. After that, the imam refused to stay at that mosque anymore and rented a house far away. To this day he doesn't visit that area, and the muazzin never came back to that mosque. Later, When I spoke to people and described the body I had seen, I learned it was a boy from that area, someone many had spotted before. This happened roughly a year after Sumon's death. Another incident came from a friend of mine. Since he lived alone, one of his elder nephews named Roby used to stay with him every night. Roby owned a shop and would come to my friend's house every night around 11 p.m. after closing. As my friend recounts, one night he was just about to fall asleep when he heard Roby scratching at the door, then entering the room. Roby came and sat by his head, sharing stories about his day, and that was the beginning of yet another strange and chilling night.
Suddenly I noticed something strange about Robbie uncle. His face looked rotten, melting, with his eyes popping out. As I tried to get up from bed, he pressed down on my chest and I couldn't move or scream. The hand felt unnatural, and as the pressure increased, the skin and flesh of Robbie uncle's face fell away until it looked just like Sumon's. Terrified, I jumped out of bed and found the room's door flung wide open. I ran to my parents, woke them up and told them everything. They tried to console me, saying it must have been a dream. But when I lifted my shirt, I found 5 finger marks burning into my chest. What was even stranger was that I had bolted the door from inside before falling asleep. How had it opened? The next morning, when I spoke to friends, we noticed the imprint of a left hand on my chest. After Sumon's death, an eerie silence fell over the area. The fields were deserted, and as soon as evening came, people shut themselves in. Even the popular Alif Layla screening, which used to draw crowds, became deserted. It took a long time for things to return to some normality. When I visited Sumon's house, his mother embraced me and wept. A month later, Sumon's father abandoned the house and moved into Sumon's grandmother's old home. When I asked why, his mother only cried harder until she finally confessed that she couldn't stay in the house anymore. Sumon's father had seen him one night, and she too started seeing strange things. One night, she was awakened by a strong gust of wind that blew the windows open. And she found their pet dog decapitated and placed on the veranda. Another night, she found 3 newborn kittens in the toilet, strangled to death. And then came the most painful memory. Sumon had been pestering her for 50 Taka for hours.